Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's just, I don't know, I'm in a bit of a tiz, to be honest. It's, but a good tiz. A good tiz. And I've got a great guest on as well. I've got the music man himself, Derek Shelmerdine. So I've got him on, which is, it's always good for people to come on the show and know what they're talking about, unlike me. And I've got a great couple of clips, historical clips to show you as well, which is good. So I've got, and there's another lad who's supposed to come on in the second half, but he hasn't been in touch yet. I know he's in England. He's from all the way over in Tampa. He's from Tampa Bay, over there in Florida, sunny state. Anyway, he's supposed to come on and talk about a gathering here in Liverpool, funny enough. And he's in a band called the Incurables, which is very appropriate, isn't it? The Incurables. I think I'm incurable myself. So anyway, I just want to say hello to these wonderful people. And it's the lovely Valley, yes. Good afternoon from Ohio, USA. All my best to you. Thank you so much, Valley. Thank you. And all my best to you too, sweetheart. Everything, everything. Mark Kiddish. Evening, Frank. Hope you're well. Looking forward to the show as always. Thank you, Mark. Because I know you're a big fan. I know you're a big fan of Derek. I do know that. Tony. Now then, Frankie, a pint, a chaser, and a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Lynn Ellis, the lovely Lynn Ellis. Evening, Frank. Hope you're well. Yes, Lynn. Thank you so much. Frank, going to be dry for Friday, because what's happening on Friday, ladies and gents, is that I'm having a walk, but it's going to be an unusual walk, actually. We're going to, it'll be rather, I don't know, arduous, is it, shall we say? Arduous? No, I won't say arduous, but it'll be a gentle walk. If it rains, you know that I'm not going. You know that. There's no way I'll go out into the rain. Anyway, it's going to be a cracker. If you want to go along, get in touch with Lynn. Just send her a message. Please, just send her a message. Charlie Wood. Evening, Frank. Hope you're well. And Tony Barton. Yes, Charlie. Thank you. And Tony Barton. Hello, Frankie. Me again on Facebook. With a little gif of laughter, a pint, and 2 thumbs up. And obviously, there'll be more and more coming on. But I want to introduce, I've got to mention the sponsors. And it's Gap Painting Services. They're fully timed, served. Great lads they are as well. Fully timed, fully insured. So if anything happens, just in case, bang. You're insured. 5-star customer ratings, which they are. I can vouch for them. Customer references on request. I'm giving you the reference now. If you're an NHS worker, if you're a nurse or anyone, you get a special discount. If you're an OAP, again, a special discount. And believe me, look, if you want something done in the home, just get these lads in. Just get them in, because I've recommended them to a few people, actually. And they said, oh, yeah, we'll have a go with them, Frank. So anyway, we'll get them in. We'll get them in to get the lads in. And they have given 5-star ratings. They few of them phoned me up and said, Frank, brilliant. Thank you so much for recommending Gap Painting Services. And that's genuine. Right. And there's Lynn Ellis saying, message me if you want to come on the walk on Friday. I will give you details. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. Right, here we go. And I'm going to bring in this very special man. This very special man. And there he is.
Hi, Frank.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting there.
Oh, no problem at all, mate. No problem at all.
And there he is, Derek Shelmerdine's Rock and Roll Unravelled. And this fella, if you want any news or any information about anyone, whether it's a solo singer, whether it's a band, anything, this fella answers it. But his book, Rock and Roll Unravelled, is fascinating. I remember when I first met Derek. Now, I did a DVD called Liverpool Unravelled, and I kept saying through the interview with him, "Oh, you want to get this Liverpool Unravelled?" Until someone came out and said, "Frank, are you talking about your DVD?" I realised that even Jason, the producer, he sent a message through to me. He said, "It's Liverpool, it's Rock and Roll Unravelled," so you do get mixed up. I do all the time, to be honest. But anyway, it's a good evening anyway, Derek, and how's life? How's life?
Oh, sorry, I missed that, mate. Oh, it's going pretty well at the moment. We're just sort of in the process of moving house, as it were. So it's all getting a little bit
stressful.
Absolutely.
It's one of the most stressful things, moving home. It really is. No matter what part of the world you live in, it's very stressful. But anyway, as long as you're in fine fettle, that's good.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm glad of that. And we're going to talk about two very famous fellows, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. From two very different eras. I mean, Liverpool's own Billy Fury, who is got to be a very major player on the British rock and roll front, and Brian Ferry, who came along really a couple of decades later and was with Roxy Music. I mean, they made quite an interesting impact in the glam rock scene in the sort of late 70s and 80s.
Can I come in there? And it's interesting to say that, actually, because when Francine was younger as well, and watching, this glam rock sort of thing, I remember Michael's wife, Anne. She was a big fan of Brian Ferry, and she used to get dressed up in a uniform, like in an American uniform. Not like all the badges or anything. It was just like I don't know, like a beige thing, like a beige shirt, and she wore a skirt, obviously, and that's what Ferry used to dress like this American sort of uniform, and she used to dress in that and go to see him all over the country.
Oh, right.
So he has a massive following to Brian Ferry. I'm sorry there to cut in.
No, absolutely. I mean, he did. He had two separate careers as well, which really ran parallel. I mean, he really came to fame with Roxy Music. But, he was doing solo stuff from virtually the beginning of Roxy Music. I mean, about 18 months after their first single. I mean, he put out his own individual first single. And what was interesting about the very early Roxy Music stuff was mostly Brian Ferry compositions. I think his first album, the one just called Roxy Music, was, I think, all bar one Brian Ferry. It might have been all Brian Ferry. But if you look at Brian Ferry's own album, first album, These Foolish Things, they're all covers, from people like Dylan and all kinds of famous songwriters. Some of the guy's an interesting guy. The Roxy Music was sort of billed as not so much billed, but sort of seen as the thinking man's glam rock.
That's right.
He
was totally different. I'm sorry there, Derek. Yeah. I'm sorry for interrupting, but he was totally different from the likes of, say, Sweet.
Oh, absolutely.
Or any other bands that was like this glam rock sort of thing. So he was totally different. But in my opinion, he was cool.
Oh, absolutely.
He was Mr. Cool, wasn't he, really?
Yeah. Well, funny you should say that, because famously, around 1972, they appeared, I think, for the first time on the Old Grey Whistle Test in the June, and Whispering Bob Harris described them as a triumph of style over substance. And I think he went on to say something like, if this is the future of rock and roll, I'm going home.
Go away.
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
Apparently he regretted that, because they went, because that was really while they were just getting going. They hadn't really achieved an awful lot at that particular time. It was before their first hit album came out.
Do you know that song "Love Is the Drug"?
Yep.
Was that about? That's a true saying. That actually, it is a drug. Believe you me, it's a drug. But if that's the time of Jerry Hall, isn't it?
That's right. Famously, their Roxy Music album of '75, Siren, it's her on the front cover. And apparently she was having a bit of a fling with Brian Ferry at the time before she moved on to Mick Jagger. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but she was very much part of the scene then. So you can see, he's moving in the circles of
I think Jerry Hall was moving in the circles as well, because she's just dumped
models.
Rupert Murdoch. It's great. How you can move about in circles. I just stay static, and that's me. I don't move around in such circles. Fortunately. I'm sorry there, Derek. I just thought I'd throw that in. So go on, carry on, Derek.
Well, do you want to carry on talking about Brian Ferry a bit before we go on to Billy Fury?
Absolutely, yeah, because I want to know, coming to the end of Roxy Music, because they were so popular. And all of a sudden, they just started to dissipate into nothing.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was that Brian Eno, of course, he was part of the original lineup when they were getting together, and it was the perhaps I start a bit earlier. I mean, what happened was that Brian Ferry comes from the sort of northeast. His first band was the Banshees in Sunderland, and then he moved to Newcastle to go to university. And he joined a band called the Gas Board, which always seemed to me to be a very strange name for a band. I mean, he got a degree in fine art, and for the next few years, I mean, he worked in straight jobs. He was a van driver, an antiques restorer, and then apparently a ceramics teacher at a Hammersmith girls' school. But he apparently turned the lessons into music lessons somehow, and the school board took a dim view of this, and they fired him. So he decided that he'd put a band together. This is about the sort of latter end of 1970 kind of time. And there was a guy called Graham Simpson, who's the bass player, who he played with at college. So he obviously stayed friendly with him and hooked up with him. And Brian Eno was one of the first to come on, and Andy Mackay, who was with him for quite a long time. And they had a few personnel changes. I mean, for a very short time, a guy called David O'List was the guitarist. Now, he's the guitarist from Nice. So, a very interesting guy. But apparently they had a sort of difference of opinion. And you can imagine Nice and much more progressive. So you couldn't see him sticking around in Roxy Music too long. And I might actually have seen them, because when I was sort of delving in a bit, I found in the December of '71, they played a couple of tryout live gigs. And one was at the University of Reading, which was where I went at that time. I was there from '69 to '72. And
I remember you went to Reading uni, actually, ages and ages ago. I remember that.
So I might very well have seen them. In fact, when I look back, I can remember a few gigs, but you can't. I went just about everything that was going. If I was there, I was at the gig, because of course the university circuit in the late '60s and early '70s was the big circuit for all the big bands. So it was brilliant. For a couple of quid, you were seeing like all kinds of.
Can I just mention a few people who saying good evening to you? Mark Kinnish, evening, Derek.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you, mate.
and the lovely Valley.
Hi, Valley.
She's all the way from Ohio
Wow,
in the States.
brilliant. You're certainly getting far and wide, Frank.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I try to, even over there in New Brighton and up just down the road from me as well. That's all right. Just want to say hello to these and a couple of questions, but comments about you. Tony Barton, evening, Derek.
Hi, Tony.
A couple of thumbs up for you.
Brilliant.
Derek, got a question to ask you. Do you agree? There's comments here and everything. Right. Derek, got a question. Let me go through these, please. Please, Derek. I'm awfully sorry about this.
That's all right.
Derek, got a question to ask you. Do you agree Stevie Winwood's voice has never changed? Still as good as even now.
Absolutely.
He carries on.
The guy has got an awesome voice. He really has.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that, it's like you look at some of those singers from that era, and you look how big Rod Stewart became, and he certainly wasn't, if you like, the best. I mean, he was very good, obviously, but people like Stevie Winwood were very much in the same sort of league.
I'm sorry you asked that question. I just want to go through these.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to go through these people. They just and carry on. Mark always comes out, got nothing to start. Jesus. He comes out with questions which is irrelevant to what we're talking about. Stevie Winwood. Anyway, he says, Mark, Billy Fiore was amazing.
No, absolutely.
Hey, Frank, hope you guys are well, says Keegan Murphy. Now, I don't know whether Keegan's over in Australia. I'm not quite so sure.
Oh, wow.
Because I mentioned him on one of my podcasts, a Liverpool FC podcast, that is. Anyway, I like Billy Fiore's here with a wondrous place. Anyway, even in Frank says the lovely Karen Kariakou.
Hi, Karen.
She's a lovely pair. I know Karen well, and I know her husband, Steve. And the first time she came on, the show, I'm going back a few years ago, and you should have seen me trying to pronounce her name. And I had our Jared with me at the time. And I'm saying, can you pronounce that name? And he was saying, brilliant. But she got on and said, this is how you pronounce it. But I love her anyway. I love Karen. Lovely girl. Lovely husband. Found out Brian Ferry redid the John Lennon song, Jealous Guy, as a tribute to John. Yes, we know that. And, sorry about this. Evening, Derek, says Charlie Wood.
Hi, Charlie.
Evening, Gang, says Neil Broderick.
Hi, Neil.
Charlie Wood says Roxy Music was another band Paul Carrack was in. It sounds like the Beatles were the only band he wasn't in. Which is a good one for you. And Derek, I've got Pink Floyd's album, Nice Pair, with Dr. Pang on the cover.
Well, that's pretty collectible.
Yeah. Okay, I'm awfully sorry. I had to go through them, you see.
No, it's brilliant.
So carry on, I'm sorry.
Well, they got their name, apparently, from the Roxy Cinema, was what they fancied calling themselves. So, the Roxy and then music, because there was another band called Roxy. So they called themselves Roxy Music. But the first real change came in the sort of summer of '73 when Brian Eno left. And I found this quote where Brian Eno says, and I quote, "I left Roxy Music because I had no choice. Brian said, I'm never going on stage with you again." He wanted me to leave. So obviously there was a bit of a falling out, but I couldn't find any sort of details of it. But obviously there was some difference of opinion, because Brian Eno is one of these guys that's absolutely highly rated keyboard synthesizer kind of guy. So, you wouldn't really sling him out of the band for well, you'd have to have a pretty good reason to sling him out the band.
Yeah.
He's got a strong personal following as well. He
Derek,
did some great stuff.
Derek, this is what I want. I've been trying to think what I wanted to ask you as soon as you said that to Brian Ferry. Any idea who wrote his music? Did he write it himself, or was it band members?
He wrote an awful lot himself. I read that when he put Roxy Music together, the idea was to play, Brian Ferry's songs, because he was writing songs right from the very beginning, right from the sort of Gasboard days. And it's interesting, if you look at the Roxy Music, the early albums particularly, he wrote an awful lot, if not, well, nearly all of the stuff. But if you look at his own albums at the same time, sort of 73, 4-ish, you'll find his own albums, ironically, are all covers, people like Dylan and all kinds of, very well-known songwriters and singer-songwriters. So he sort of almost had two parallel careers going down. I mean, they had a lot of hits. I mean, Brian Ferry had 26 hit singles between 73 and 95, and no number ones, which is interesting. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. I thought Love Is a Drug was number one.
No, I don't think so.
I just...
Oh, Love Is a Drug. Love Is a Drug. No, that was number 2, actually, interestingly enough. And that was a Roxy Music. That's the thing about Brian Ferry. You're never really sure, like Jealous Guy. That was a number 1.
So it wasn't Roxy Music, Jealous Guy?
It was Roxy Music. Yeah. So, he had a lot of hits. It's difficult to differentiate, really. And most of the musicians he plays with are, they're not Roxy Music. I know the drummer was on the first Brian Ferry album. Can't remember his name offhand. Yeah, but he just seemed to move along, really. I mean, to be honest, there's not really an awful lot of toing and froing on the story. I mean, most of, apart from what we just talked about, it's really just the music. He's just been a very successful guy, very talented guy, across a very long period of time.
Yeah. Can I just mention something there? Dennis Pepperack, who's supposed to come on after 9 o'clock, he's still over there in America. And he says, "Hi all, sorry Frank, just got out of a meeting. Let me know, Derek." I'm sorry, Dennis. Let me know if you're still coming on. No, Jason will know anyway. So after 9. If not, you've just got to contend with me talking about history and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Here's a question for you. What is it? I don't know. It's a comment. And it's from Valley S. I'm curious, Derek. How would you describe the difference between British rock and American rock and roll? Which came first?
Well, it all started with blues, a gospel, basically. And what happened was that across the early part of the 50s, R&B, country music and blues all sort of fused together into really rockabilly, you could argue, was the first rock and roll. That apparently was started by Elvis. It's usually attributed to recording sessions when he was at Sun. The very, very first recording sessions when he was fooling around. And, rockabilly, they do the kind of hiccups and all kinds of things.
Doesn't that sound like Elvis then, Jerry? I couldn't believe me ears, when it came.
And, they had a couple of guitars and a slap bass. And what happened was that in the UK, skiffle morphed and rock and roll morphed into beat music. And in America, rock and roll just sort of generally died away, and there was a whole host of, several sort of subgenres formed. You had soul music started, Phil Spector, surf music, and what happened was then there was the British invasion in '64 when the Beatles came over, and the British bands then dominated the American charts, and some of the American bands even called themselves English-sounding names, like the Beefeaters. They did become famous when they changed their name to the Byrds in around '65. And then what happened in '65? Beat morphed into rock music, more in the UK with Jimi Hendrix, who'd been beavering away in America for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, getting nowhere. Chas Chandler, the Animals manager, brought him to the UK, formed Jimi Hendrix Experience. And at the same time, I mean, Cream was getting off the ground. So the whole thing was taking a much, much harder edge. And that's when American rock music and British rock music sort of came back together again. In America, on the West Coast, you had bands like The Doors, Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane. East Coast, you had people like...
What about the Beach Boys?
Well, they were surf music. They were sort of ploughing a parallel road, really. They're a bit like the Beatles. I mean, you wouldn't really pigeonhole the Beatles into a particular genre because they just crossed all of them. I mean, they were a beat group. They were a psychedelic group. I mean, Pepper is a psychedelic album. There's no two ways.
They didn't like it. That was the worst. This according to the four lads, the four of them, they just didn't like doing Sgt. Pepper's. They didn't like it. It's the most famous one.
Yeah, I can understand. It took hundreds and hundreds of hours to record.
500 hours.
Yeah.
500.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at those Get Back, that Get Back movie, 8 hours of the recording for Abbey Road. I mean, that seemed long, and that was just 8 hours. So imagine, someone like Ringo, particularly, apparently he learned to play chess to stave off the boredom. And I think that's where the whole Paul is Dead myth started. They got bored because Rain was the first backwards track they released, so they were experimenting with backwards tapes and things.
Can I just read a few comments because you're very listen. You mentioned a certain name before, and I'd love you to do them in the future. Whenever you like.
Okay.
And that was Phil Spector.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd love you to do a program on him. Would you mind?
No, that can be the next one. I love Phil Spector.
Well, I'll just go through these. Dennis Pepperack says, Neil Brother, hang on a minute. Just please, just hang on. Just hang on. I'll just go through these because it's interesting for you as well. Don't forget, you've got all these people listening to you closely. The Ramones got their name from Paul McCartney. Apparently, Paul McCartney, when booking into hotels, used the name Paul Ramone. Okay, well, you know that anyway. Dennis Pepperack says, he answers Neil, and he says, all the guys used pseudonyms early on. George went by Carl Harrison, and after Carl Perkins, which, you would say that. Hang on a minute.
And Lennon was Long John.
Yeah, he was. And
that was after they failed. They did that after they failed the Billy Fury. Nice link. Could be a segue almost. When they did the Larry Payne's Palms Billy Fury audition, they failed that, and they went as a sort of consolation prize. They got a Scottish tour with Johnny Gentle, and that was when they started to use these pseudonyms. And apparently they stopped pretty much shortly after that tour because John Lennon didn't particularly want to be known as Long John Beetle.
Yeah.
So they just reverted back. Well, you can't revert back. They, reverted.
Well, Neil Broderick, can I go through this? Because these are all important, for the show, really. And for you. And for me reading them out. Anyway, Neil Broderick says, watching a programme the other day, they're selling £1 million properties in UK. Think it was Channel 4. One of the houses, £8. As a recording studio at the back where Roxy Music recorded. I don't know about that.
Well, a lot of people have studios in their homes, a lot of musicians. I know Roger Waters did. My sort of second wife was a PA to them, and we babysat his house in West London for a week or so. So roaming around the house and opened one of the doors, and it was his recording studio with all these cassette tapes lying around. And I didn't touch one of them, honest God.
Really, you didn't. No,
No,
you're not honest.
no.
No, you're
I
not
mean,
honest.
very tempting.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And what does Oscar Wilde say? I can
Like,
resist anything except temptation.
Exactly.
And Hendrix was playing blues for years before playing rock music, says Charlie Wood.
Yeah, he was beaving away. He started playing. He started playing in local bands before he went in the army. When he was about 14 years old, and then he went into the army, and he formed a band there. And then he was in all kinds of interesting bands. I mean, he was in the touring band for people like Sam Cooke, Isley Brothers. He actually recorded with the Isley Brothers, and he toured with a lot of, and Little Richard as well. There's an album for Little Richard with Jimi Hendrix, but he was getting nowhere. He even called himself Jimmy something in the Blue Flames. And that was what he was calling himself when Chas Chandler saw him at the Cafe War. And I think it was Brian Jones, his girlfriend, who suggested to Alan that he should go to the Cafe War to see this guy because he was pretty amazing. And he did that.
You mentioned the Blue Flames there. Didn't Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames, didn't they have a band called the Blue Flames as well?
That's right, yeah. I mean, funny enough, that's another Billy Fiore link because Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames were formed. Larry Parnes decided, because Larry Parnes became Billy Fiore's manager, and he decided about 61 that it was time for Billy Fiore to have his own backing band because think about 61, beat groups are really starting to form. So, solo artists from the 50s, like, Cliff Richard standing out in the front and Billy Fiore standing out in the front, Marty Wilde, decided that he'd have his own backing group. And Georgie Fame was one of his artists, keyboard guy. So he was, the main man, the keyboard man in the Blue Flames. And then the Tornadoes took over as Billy Fiore's backing band because Larry Parnes thought that the Blue Flames would be becoming too jazz orientated. So he sacked them and brought in the Tornadoes, had a hit with Telstar. And Georgie Fame then fronted the Blue Flames. So they call themselves Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames.
Go away. Is that how they came? Oh, that's brilliant.
Out,
I didn't even know that. I never had a clue about that. That's brilliant. That. You're good, you are.
Jimmy James, I think it was, and the Blue Flames. Jimmy Hendrix.
You're good. Well, yes, there's another question for you. May I ask another question? Now, this is in an American accent. I'm sorry, I can do an accent. She says, how did electronic synthesizers influence rock and roll, or was it a different genre?
Well, I think they're all sort of subgenres, really. I mean, some purists think that rock and roll was from like 1955 to 51, arguably, to 1959. But the term rock and roll really is a generic term. People talk about a rock and roll lifestyle and stuff. And the synthesizers, I think, the Beach Boys were getting into that early on. But I think what brought them to fame was the German bands like Tangerine Dream, Kraftwerk, and Amen Duel 2. And they really went off down that electronic route. Hawkwind as well were one of the early adopters.
Oh, I think. Really? One of my favourite bands. I told you I went to see them, didn't I? Yeah. With Mott the Hoople.
Oh, they're brilliant.
He was on the same bill, which I didn't know. I never had a clue. But I said to the girl who was with at the time, she was only young, and I said to her, the support bands were great, weren't they? There's only a couple of bands on. And she said, yeah, they were brilliant. Anyway, years later, the email came through and said I was because I was talking about the stadium where we went to see them, and a fella sent it. He said I was there that night, Frank, myself, and one of the support bands was Queen.
Wow.
And how he knew, he bought a program. I said, they were only like A4 paper type, goes together, just these prints. You don't buy that. I could have bought one. I don't know.
I know.
I
wish I bought programs and T-shirts.
Please don't. Please don't go down. I've got a former colleague of mine. He used to lecture in sociology. And anyway, I was talking to him one day. He was a great fellow. We went through university and whatever together. And he said, would you like to come back, and have a cup of tea? And I said, yeah, sure. I went back to his house because he didn't live far from the university that we were working in. Anyway, he went in and he said, can I show you something? I said, yeah, sure. And I went into like a back room. And it's just like your bookcase at the back. Albums of everyone. And I mean everyone. He had first editions of all the Beatles.
Wow.
Well, listen to this. He has all the signatures of the Beatles, right? Except one. And that was Ringo Starr. Oh. And Ringo Starr came over to Liverpool to perform at the famous Empire with his All-Stars, Ringo Starr and his All-Stars, Anyway, he seen him, and he was next to a fella who was actually at school with Ringo. And anyway, as he was passing, Mike said, do me a favor, can you sign this? And there's like this fella who was standing next to him, who apparently turns out to be Ringo Starr's friends at school. He looked at him, looked at Mike, and he said to his mate, he must have thought Mike was with him. He said, what do you want me autograph for, soft lad? And walked on. And he never got his autograph. Never got his autograph.
Wow.
It's one of those things, events that, and yet at the when he came over for the millennium, him and Dave Stewart at St. George's Hall, I'd given a lecture. I'd just given a lecture. I think it was at for the millennium, and they were there rehearsing Ringo Starr. And anyway, I walked over because they were through this room, and I walked over, and Dave Stewart and Starr was talking, and Dave Stewart said, I don't like this place. And I thought he meant the hall at Liverpool. He said, and I thought, oh. And then I wanted to go in and just say, hang on a minute, But anyway, that was it. Mr. Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Neil Broderick says, is there any truth in the connection with Widnes Station at Homeward Bound? Yes, we know that, don't we?
Yeah, Simon Garfunkel.
Yeah. Is that true?
Apparently it's true. I've never seen anybody really heavily deny it. No. And you can imagine, on a wet afternoon. I remember as a boy, we always used to go Christmas shopping because I live near Chester, and Christmas you'd always go shopping to Liverpool on the moving staircase and Owen Owens and all that sort of thing. And you always seem to have to change from Shotton High Line at Bidston. And I mean, this is early December. It was always bitterly cold. It was always pouring with rain. And there always seemed to be at least 3/4 of an hour to an hour to wait for the next train. So I can imagine a songwriter of the caliber of Paul Simon getting quite inspired by being stuck on a station for some little while.
Well, James Ivers says, just listening in for the second time. loving the conversation. The two of you are so clued up in the music business. Not me, him.
Thank you very much.
Not me, him. He's the one who's clued up. Oh, it was a nice comment to make about
Very nice. Thank you, Jane.
Frank. But you're the man. You are the man. And Valley S again, the lovely Valley. She says, in your opinion, what might be the perfect mix of ingredients which creates a rock and roll sensation? How important is the front man? Whoa, what a question that is.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, really. I mean, some bands like the Beatles are far bigger than the sum of the the sum of the parts is far bigger than the individuals. And I think they're almost all front men in a way. But then you look at the Rolling Stones and you look at Mick Jagger, and he really is a focal point on the for the band. So I think bands can work equally well with or without a front man. But I think there are some people like James Brown. Because he performed with the famous Flames, so you could say he was a front man, and he's got the most unbelievable stage act. I mean, at the end, with I think it's "Please, Please, Please," the song, he feigns collapse on the stage. I mean, it's a really dramatic performance, and he used to always close his show with it. And he'd be singing "Please, Please, Please," very slow, very heavy duty soul song. And one of the roadies would come on with a big cape, and he'd help James Brown up off the floor, put it round his shoulders, and then James Brown would collapse again and go into another chorus of "Please, Please, Please." And when you've got a front man of that kind of ilk, absolutely unbelievable, electrifying performances.
Very similar, I'm not talking about frontman, I'm talking about like a solo artist. And one of the, besides Michael Jackson, because I think he was actually superb, but I always look at, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant, this fella. Well, there's two people actually, and they're so diverse with one another. Can I mention them? Then you can say something. Is that okay?
No problem.
I have to say. One was Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Live.
Yeah.
Live. And the other fella, so diverse from him, just sat there playing the piano. And you know what? This is true, this. I had his first album, and it was autographed.
Oh, wow.
It was autographed. And you know what? It was in very, very good condition.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It got destroyed on me.
Oh.
Destroyed. You know who that was?
Fats Domino. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, awesome.
Because you see the diversity of both, from performing the duck dance to just Fats, just sitting there playing the piano.
Yeah.
I love it. I really love this. This is fantastic.
I mean, Fats Domino sold more records. Apart from Elvis Presley, he was the biggest selling rock and roller of the 50s in singles, Fats Domino. He was very successful, a whole load of crossover hits when the R&B artists started crossing over in around 54. When the sort of white rock and roll started to take off.
I'm just laughing at this comment here, and it's from the lovely little Lynn Ellis. She says, "Terry, what do you think of all the funny daft songs that have been out for over the years? That is, I was Kaiser Bill's Batman."
Oh yeah. I mean, whistling Jack Smith, I think that was.
Yeah, whistling Jack Smith.
Yeah, I love all that. I mean, I love Ernie, the fastest milkman in the West, Benny Hill. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And, talking Liverpool and humour, I mean, the scaffold, because that Lily the Pink was actually based on a real lady in the sort of 19th century America. They're called apothecaries, where snake oil, where, you know, she had this elixir that would cure everything. I forget the lady's name now, but it is actually
really
based on that lady. Yeah.
Well, do you know what? It's funny you saying that, because I was asked. I was a judge. I was a judge in street pavement art, right? And who was with me? Who was the fellow judge? Was McCartney, right?
Oh wow.
Mike. So anyway, we get chatting, and I said to him, and here's what I said, and I've wanted to know for years, right? And I said, what was the A3 iron? I said, was it a tree? And he looked at me, and he said, how do you know about a tree? I said, because there was only one tree, iron, and it was an oak tree, and it was one of the oldest. I said, the unfortunate thing was that they knocked it down, or they got rid of it because it was in a road sort of thing.
Yeah.
I said, was it that? And he said to me, he said, that was brilliant. I said, really? I was made up. He said, but it wasn't that. He said, it wasn't that. So, you know, I still don't know from this.
You'll never know, I guess, Frank.
Isn't that great, though? Derek, I've got a cool album I was listening today, Little Feet Sailing Shoes.
Yeah, it's Lal George.
I thought I wasn't going to mention that, you know. I thought it was a joke.
No, it's Lal George. Lal George, he died quite a while ago now, I think. But he played for Frank Zappa for a while. And when he was leaving Frank Zappa to set up his own band, Little Feet, it was Frank Zappa that suggested, why don't you call it Little Feet? Because you only got little feet. And apparently that's the background. But it's a great album, and he's a great guy. Well worth checking out.
Is Steve Evans, sad week for music last week with the loss of both Rodriguez and Robbie Robertson. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Robertson, real cornerstone in rock and roll history, really. Because, I mean, he was in Bob Dylan's, he was Bob Dylan's backing group. They were the Hawks. They originally started, they were all Canadian, apart from one of them that was American from Arkansas, I think. I forget which one. And they were the backing group for Ronnie Hawkins, rockabilly star, made his name in Canada. And what happened was they got involved with Bob Dylan as the Hawks, and they played, you know, the famous or infamous Electric Tour. I think it was in 65, 66, when they were getting booed off the, when Dylan was getting not so much booed off the stage, but getting an awful lot of boos. And then they changed their name to the band. They recorded their first album at the Big Pink. That was where Bob Dylan recorded his basement tapes at a house in Woodstock, I think it is, called the Big Pink. And so the band called their first album Music from the Big Pink. And they made some fabulous solo albums, as well as the stuff they did with Dylan.
Can I just go through these, please? Right. Please. He said he forgot about Lee Bralou, Steve Evans. Steve Evans, I'm sorry, Charlie Wood says Jerry Lee Lewis used to threaten to shoot the band if he hit a dodgy note.
Well, he did actually shoot his, apparently accidentally, but he didn't actually shoot his bass player on one occasion. Whether he played a bum note or not, I don't know. But he did actually almost live up to his name, because his nickname was the Killer.
Like Alex Baldwin. Anyway, I just want to do this, please, Terry, please let me do it. Neil Broderick, Lemmy, I loved Lemmy.
Oh, I love Lemmy.
I met him at Radio Merseyside years ago, and I was just chatting to him. Absolutely brilliant fella. And he was, do you know what? You know, when you see him on stage and all his leather, and his big cowboy, a leather cowboy hat. Yeah. That's how he was dressed.
Yeah.
I said, don't you ever change? He says, yeah, when I go to bed.
He used to play with Hawkwind, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that's how Motorhead came about. They were on tour in America, and they were crossing over the border from USA into Canada, and one of the guards pulled Lemmy over. They took this little bag of white powder out of his case and, took him away. And then they checked it out, and it was only amphetamine. It wasn't heroin. And the Canadians didn't really see amphetamine as a proper drug. So the good news was that he wasn't in trouble with the authorities. The bad news was Hawkwind sacked him anyway, and he went off and formed Motorhead.
Okay, can I carry on now with these?
Sorry.
No, I think it's great. I just love it. But anyway, Zappa's mum said he had little feet, Derek.
Oh, fair enough.
That was what you thought about before, right? I used to love the novelty record, says Charlie Woods. The Ying Tong song. Remember Tommy Cooper? Don't jump off the roof.
You'll make a hole in the ground. I mean, the Goons. I mean, they were very much important.
Frank, what's searching for Sugar Man? Documentary about Rodriguez, amazing. Will do, Stephen, will do. And Neil Broderick, the Eagles were manufactured in England, strangely enough. And Valley S says, I remember the group Mountain.
Yeah.
Leslie West seemed to prove that pure talent outshines good looks.
Absolutely. I mean, Kentucky Sleigh Ride, they've got a live album. I can't remember the album's called. And there's about a 20-25 minute version of Nantucket Sleigh Ride. I mean, that was used for one of the British sports programs. Might have been Match of the Day. It was something like that, the theme. But Leslie West, I mean, what a great guy. And Felix Pappalardi, the bass player with Mountain, he went on to be Cream's producer. He produced all Cream's stuff. But sadly, his demise was his wife shot him. He obviously upset her, and she shot him dead.
God, you must have been talking to Jerry
Corky Lang, I think. Yeah, Corky Lang, I think, was must have been the drummer.
That's incredible, though.
Yeah, but they were a fabulous band, Mountain. Really.
Let's see it. Let's
One
see
song.
It. See, you not let me. Right. Just before, I've got to do some history, you see. And just before I go to the history, don't forget Phil Spector, please.
Oh, no, we'll do that next show, Frank. I love Phil Spector. There's so much to talk about. Really is. Fantastic. Interesting guy.
Fantastic. Can I just go through these before we show the history? I think the people would like the history tonight. Right. See, hang on. Oh, God, blimey, these are talking to one another. Redbird Dina, listening to you guys has cheered me up. Great convo.
Oh, thank you very much.
Don't forget, Redbird, tomorrow evening between 8 and 10 is the Liverpool FC podcast.
Yeah.
Don't forget it tomorrow. Thank you so much. Some people say the Beatles and the Byrds had similar sounds. Don't do that yet. Don't do that yet. That'll be good, the Phil Spector and Motown music 1 week. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, they're both great stories.
What's this? Why kick a moo cow? Liverpool band. Why Neil Broderick? I've never heard of them. And John Smith says, evening goal. And Steve Evans says, Frank, a couple of young local bands to recommend if I can. The Cheap Thrills, Casino Brighttown, The Stamp. You know what for you, Steve, because, you know, you like Derek, you know so many, modern day bands and whatever. And just come on sometime. Fed up asking you. I really am. But he's good. He'd be great with you, you know. You know, the two of you sitting face to face. He really would be good. You should get on like that.
Yeah, brilliant.
House on fire. Right? Just let me just through this. I'm sorry. You should talk about 10cc. 10cc next week, Derek. They contributed massive. Oh, they contributed to the Brit music and all videos they made. They were brilliant.
They were a good band, yeah.
And good evening, Frank and Derek, says Philip Jones. I will see you Friday in town from Philip Jones. Thank you, Philip. The Birds took their sound from the Searchers, says Charlie Wood. Oh, that's a thing. Derek, once again, been brilliant.
I really enjoyed it, Frank. Really enjoyed it, mate.
These are thoroughly. Even from down there in Australia, g'day. From there to over there in America.
Brilliant. That's excellent. Excellent, mate.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And they are, look, the lovely Valley says. Thank you, Derek. You are amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks. It's been great talking to everybody.
Oh, yeah, there's another one there. Well, Lynn Ellis. Come back soon, Derek.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see.
Thanks.
So, what you've got, see, you come across, to be honest, it's like anything. If you know your profession, you've got no trepidation, to be honest, you know, to what you're going to talk about, because people ask you questions. You mentioned people there I'd never even heard of. Never even heard of. Absolutely none whatsoever. But anyway, you know your stuff, and this is why you know I love you having on. Yeah, you know I love you coming on, and I'll see you in a week or two. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Thank you so much, Terry.
Oh, my pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Excellent stuff. And try and watch the you know, the replay on YouTube.
Right.
You know, it is good. Can I just go to this? Right, two. Stairway to Heaven, the greatest lyrics of all time, says Neil Broderick. John Smith, rock and roll was even, rock and roll was even the catalyst for British dance and acid house. Ironically, the machine that was used in early house records was intended as a bass guitar accompaniment for guitarists. That's all gobbledygook to me, but it won't be gobbledygook to you, would it? I haven't a clue, but unfortunately, you can't answer that. But don't forget Phil Spector next time.
Without a doubt. No problem at all.
I'll see you in a week or two because all these clips are waiting. Okay, thank you so much, Derek.
See you later, mate. Cheers.
Ci vediamo. Ciao. Right, going to put these wonderful things on. I think they're great anyway. I think they're great. The clips on, Jason will be putting them on now. Mount Pleasant is one of the most unassuming thoroughfares of Liverpool, yet it has a very interesting past. For example, there is a very small garden dedicated to one of Liverpool's greatest citizens, William Roscoe, who was born right here in Mount Pleasant in an inn run by his parents. Roscoe Gardens. Lots and lots of people just walk past it every single day and don't take a blind bit of notice. But follow me, I'll take you in.
The man who brought the country's first botanical gardens to Liverpool in 1801. However, this humanitarian's greatest achievement was when he led a group of Liverpool abolitionists who campaigned tirelessly against the slave trade. Roscoe's abolitionists finally won the fight when it was abolished in 1807. Incidentally, the designer of this wonderful memorial was also a Liverpool great, the town surveyor and architect John Foster Jr. And incidentally, he also lived on Mount Pleasant. So if you want to see his house, follow me. This is where he lived. Foster was responsible for designing the likes of St Luke's Church, locally known as the Bombed Out Church, the Grades 1 listed oratory next to the Anglican Cathedral, and of course St Andrew's in Rodney Street, with now the famous Mackenzie's Pyramid Tomb. I've just remembered what I've passed walking up Mount Pleasant. You can't miss out on this. Come on. This is what I forgot to tell you. This wonderful dwelling is the oldest Georgian building in Liverpool, built in 1767. It's just a magnificent example of Georgian architecture at its best. Right next door, when John Lennon was born, just up the road in Oxford Street, he was registered here like so many of Liverpool's other citizens were, famous or not so famous. You most probably were registered here yourselves. And next door again, remember this building? This was Liverpool's own dolls' hospital. Yeah, Liverpool has its own hospital for the sick dolls, a unique institution indeed. And people did actually bring their broken dolls here. You could have been one of them, bringing your poorly sick doll. Ah, bless. This striking building is the Wellington Rooms. It was adopted by the Irish community, and later it became affectionately known as the Irish Centre for many, many years. It was built in 1816 in honour of the Iron Duke himself, Wellington, for his greatest victory in battle at Waterloo over his greatest adversary, Napoleon, the year previous in 1815. I'd love to take you in, but unfortunately, and it breaks my heart this, it's fell into disrepair in the inside. The whole of the ceiling has collapsed. A lovely sunny day here in William Brown Street. Could easily be in Rome with all the neoclassical buildings. But behind me is one of the most important ladies in the whole of the country. And don't forget that the Romans give the country our name, Britannia. And the statue of Britannia is right here on the World Museum. What people don't notice when they're walking through St John's Gardens is that it's still consecrated ground belonging to the French prisoners of war from the Napoleonic Wars that are still buried here today. The children playing on this wonderful sunny day, and they think that it's just an ordinary nice park to play in, but beneath their feet is incredible history. St John's Gardens, which is the back of St George's Hall, is also a memorial gardens dedicated to the people who had lost their lives in both European and world conflicts. And there's an example. The Liverpool Scottish, in memory of all who served in the regiment. There are memorials right through the gardens, and there's just a few. It's such a wonderful sight to see such a spectrum of life in a place that was once reserved for death.
What do you think of that? It's one of those things, isn't it? You know, history, it's below your feet and people don't realise. It's above your head and people don't realise. It's not just like walking through a road or a street or any other thoroughfare that is, and just looking at people. It's above you. It's below you. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, history. And before I go to my guest who's driving home, he's driving home to the fantastic Dennis Pepperack. But I just want to show, these comments, the lovely comments coming up here. And Mark Guinness says, very sad about the Irish Centre on Mount Pleasant. I graduated there 4 times. I went in there for a few beers myself, and the unfortunate thing was I seen the ceiling. Lots of times, and it is, the ceiling's gone. It's finished, and so sad. Lynn Ellis, brilliant. Teresa Watson says, I took our baby to Roscoe Park. It was looking a little unloved. I haven't been there for a while, I'm being honest, Teresa. Your Unravelled series is awesome, Frank. I can't get enough. Thank you so much, Valley. You don't realise what that means to me. Mark Ennis. The sick dolls, eh, Frank? Yes. And I have tried all weekend to get answers about what's happening with the Wellington room, says Teresa Watson. all councillors have said is they are still trying to get investments and grants. I went Irish dancing here. Breaks my heart seeing it. As I said, just to Mark Kinnish's comment, when I graduated, as I said, I've graduated 5 times. 5 times I've graduated. And I used to go in there for a drink. I used to go in there, especially with our kids, you know. They used to come and see me. Doesn't come anymore to see me. So I said, do you miss him? I said, yeah. I said, of course I miss our kids. Of course I did. Love them. Still love them. Imagine having an old BT phone book from the early 60s, the names inside, Lennon, McCartney, just think of the names. A couple of famous LFC managers, Silla, Dodd, Marsden. Yes, Ken Dodd. Oh, Sir Ken Dodd, you know. I was his friend. I was his friend. And he gave me the greatest compliment anyone could ever have. I'm not going to mention what he said about me. That's so sad. Amazing, Frank, says Tony Barton. Love it, says Valley. Oh, Valley. History is the foundation of civilization, says Ray Thompson. Ray Thompson, he's an expat, but he lives in Portugal because I've seen a thing there before. And I can't even pronounce where he lives, to be honest. And he says, welcome to Sunny. Sunny, you know, is the name of his place. Couldn't even pronounce it. Great fella, there. Lovely fella. Great as always. Enjoy your videos. Take care, Frank, says June. Hey, June. How are you, June? June was one of my mature students, by the way. Going back. And I got to know her lovely husband, and oh, Christ. It's horrible, you know, when you... Planners again, Frank. Let's close it down and leave it to rot, says Charlie Wood. Do you know what, Charlie? You're so right. You're so right, my friend. And Lynn Ellis agrees with you. Karen Carriaco. Awesome facts as usual, Frank. I love listening to your delivery too. Hope the M&S building does stay empty too long. Yes. That's a fantastic. That was the architect was a fella named Haig. And this little shop burnt down. And he went to, the fella in his shop burnt down. And the fella said to him, he said, can you build me another, little shop? He said, yeah. So he brought plans and he said, how about that? He said, how big is that? He said. So he said, do you want me to build it? And he went, yeah, go ahead. He said, just build it. And he built it. It's massive. It became the very first, not the one in Paris, because we opened it first. We had the very first in the entire world hotel cum department store, and it was called the Compton. Don't let anyone kid you about how much this. As Yerrett's listening in, you know. I'll tell you for why. Frank, do you agree destroying the old frontage of the continent? Yes. Continent, yes. Hey, Frank, would you ever done Liverpool tours? Have you ever done? John, I do them all the time. I'm doing them on this Friday with the lovely lady called Lynn Ellis. And she's got a lovely group of people, and I love them because they've gone through a torrid time medically. And they all love Frank as well. That's crazy. I'd love to see the bloopers. Hilarious. I'll have them on next week. I'll put the bloopers on. Loving all the information. Cracker video. Thank you, Jane Divers. Thank you, Jane. I should have said, have you ever done Liverpool tour? I know what you meant. And I've just told you, John. There is one thing that the evil powers to be who want to rule the world will not achieve, is to dominate the minds of the people. Yes. What a yes. Here's something for you, and it's one of the finest quotes ever. Okay, and it's by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a French philosopher. In 1778, he said this. He said, man is born free, however, he is everywhere in chains. Everywhere in chains. We're all in chains. And if you think that freedom of speech is here, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. I am fine, Frank. I hope to see you soon. Just walk slower. Yes. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in, June. Honestly, thank you. And I mean that. You know that I mean things. Have you ever had interactions with the great lads from the back? Yeah, Gary, yeah. And his brother, I don't know whether, no, I was doing a master's, I think, going back years ago. And his brother was at the same college, got to know him that way, you know. And he went on to do his PhD in America, his brother. So true, Ray, says the lovely Valley. And this is the last one. Frank, do you think they should put a statue in Liverpool of King John? Fact, he started Liverpool. Yes, that's a good point, Dave. I've never heard that mentioned before, because they do put statues up, and we've got loads of statues, as you know. And I think we've got more statues than anywhere else, with the exception of London. And we've got more green space than anybody else, with the exception of the capital. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, hang on, Karen's just doesn't stay empty. Yeah. Yes. I'm going to bring in my special guest here. I'm sorry to keep you there, Dennis. I'm really sorry. I had to go through those ones.
That's okay.
I'm glad.
I love the bloopers, by the way. I can't wait to see those again. Those are hilarious.
Yeah, well, Valley, who's from the States, actually, she's from Ohio.
Okay.
She loves them as well. So what I'll do, I'll have them on next week.
Nice.
That's great. So listen, Dennis, the Incurables, are you coming over with them or not?
Nah, I'm just going solo this time. My birthday's coming up Wednesday, so just taking some time away from work and having some me time.
Yeah.
So 10 days holiday, be splitting time with friends over in Spalding in Lincolnshire, and then I'll be heading over to Liverpool next Monday, and I'll be there through Thursday.
What day are you meeting, by the way? Can you tell people?
Yeah, if you guys are up for a pint, I'll be at the Crack over on the 23rd, starting at 6 p.m.
What day is that?
It's a Wednesday.
A Wednesday. That's fine.
So
That's
Gerard,
fine.
if you're listening, come out for a pint.
Because if it would have been any other evening, I wouldn't have been able to have made it, because I've got podcasts going left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And I've been invited by, as a guest on some other podcast, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be great.
Yeah, it'd be good to see everybody, and got
on the Wednesday.
several folks I'm so looking forward to seeing. I haven't, folks that couldn't make it out to the IPO shows last year. Just the usual suspects as well. So I'm just really looking forward to getting back over.
So where are you doing the performance, the solo performance?
I'm playing in Spalding at a little tapas restaurant. My mate Chris got it arranged.
Organized it, yeah.
Restaurant. But yeah, here or in Liverpool rather, I think it's just going to be time spent with friends more than anything.
That's good. No, that's good, that, because I want you to come over to my home. You know that, don't you?
Yeah.
We can have a sit down, have a chat without any interruptions, and it'll be really good to see you, Dennis. You know that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited to be going.
I'll have to tell people this. I have to, because you were over last year, you and the Incurables, and you were given the cavern. You were playing at the cavern, and I got it mixed up terribly, to be honest, because I thought you were in the Cavern Club, whereas you were in the Cavern Pub.
Yeah, we did 2 shows at the pub, and then we helped close out the festival at the club. I think it was final match day as well, which is everybody's like, "You gonna go to the game? You gonna go to the game?" I said, "No, I gotta play a gig." 75 feet from where John Lennon used to stand.
And you are a big Liverpool fan, and you missed it.
Yeah, but we had a nice get together with our local group here for opening day. We had about 30 people that came out to a particular pub in downtown Tampa. Unfortunately, we didn't get the 3 points, but it was just good to see, a lot of folks for the first time in several months, because, usually after the season finishes, everybody kind of goes their separate ways. So it was kind of good to get that whole crew back together again.
Do you know who plays at? I'm going to surprise you here, whether you know or not. I just don't know. I really don't know. And this fella actually played at the Cavern. And you see names, and I'm trying to get his name, I'm being honest, in the brick wall, of everybody, from the Beatles to the Stones to everybody who played at the Cavern. And Angelina Jolie was there filming here, and her husband at the time, Billy Bob Thornton, actually plays at the Cavern. Billy Bob.
Wow.
And he went to match afterwards with Angelina, and they became great Liverpool football fans. Did you know that?
No, I did not know. Because I actually did bump into him once during my time in Nashville. He was a pretty good guy and really good musician. So I was glad I had a chance to bump into him once.
Well, Mark Kiddy says, "Evening, Dennis."
Hello, Mark.
As does Valley. Hello, Dennis.
Hiya. I can take the sunglasses off now. We just had a nice little shower come through. And,
nice. Okay.
Yeah, I still have to pack tonight. I haven't started packing yet, so I'll be doing that a little later.
So you're over here. You're here next week, or is it the week?
Yeah, I'll be in Liverpool Monday the 21st through Thursday the 24th.
Okay.
And then, like I said, we're having the get together on the 23rd over at the Crack.
Why'd you pick the Crack?
I usually would have folks meet up with me at the Phil, and I just wanted to change it up, something a little different.
The Phil.
I don't think I've been in there for about 5.5. When I was over in early 2018, before I moved to Florida, I spent about 10 days over there, and I just kind of bounced around all over the city, and it was just one of those little watering holes with some musical history associated to it. So I ducked my head in the door for a couple, and it's like, I haven't been back since. Probably need to duck in there again and just see if anybody wants to come tag along.
So you bounced around in Liverpool after a few beers, you'd be bouncing around, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Really? I've just got to try and put this bloody light on. So
Yeah,
can't
but
really see.
I'll be staying over by St. Michael's with my good friend Steve O'Toole. His dad Terry was in the Mojos.
Well, okay. Well, when you go down to St. Michael's, you know the church there was the second. It was built in 1816, and it became the second cast iron infrastructure building in the world, because the first one was St. George's in Everton. That was the very first.
Oh, okay.
And a lad by the name of Thomas Rickman designed it, and John Cragg fitted all the iron infrastructure. So tell your friend that, and it's very, go down and have a look at it. It's really interesting, to be honest. The church, just go down.
Yeah, I can actually see the steeple from Steve's flat. So yeah, it's within
yeah.
And the Tuesday I'm there. I might go because Jason, that helps you with the technical stuff for the show, he also works for my mate Steve and does IT for his law firm. So got a lot of interconnecting people and stories, and
that's incredible.
Over there and meet.
That's how incredible is that? Yeah. Really, Jason and your friend, and he does all the technical stuff. No, he doesn't help me with the technical stuff. He just does the technical stuff. I can just about do this, to be honest. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Tony Barton says hello as well.
Hey, Tony.
He says hello. That's lovely, that. And Karen Kariakou. Oh, hang on. Tony Barton. Hello, Dennis. He says. Karen Kariakou. I went to St. Michael's School. Can't believe how you pull up all the info and dates. Such a talent.
Yeah. Oh, you got to check out his videos, folks. His walk around tours of the city. I stumbled upon him just by accident, and next thing you know, I'm going down the Frank Carlyle rabbit hole on YouTube.
Well, yeah, there's a question for you from Valley.
Okay.
Where are you from, Dennis? Your accent sounds much like mine in Ohio.
Yeah, I grew up near Detroit. I grew up between Detroit and Ann Arbor, the home of the greatest university, the University of Michigan. So, yeah, I was born and raised in Michigan, left in 1984, did a 6-year Navy hitch, and during that time, my family moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and spent 26 and a half years, 2 ex-wives and a grown son later. I was ready to go to Florida.
2 ex-wives?
Yeah. But just a man about the continent.
It's amazing, because we have spoken lots of times on the show, but it's always been mainly football. Can you just tell the people, please, Dennis, how you became a Liverpool football fan?
Oh, okay. Yeah. When I was a little kid, about 5-6 years old, my cousin and I, we would get shipped off to a summer camp. Not quite like a Butlins, but it was a youth camp, and a lot of the counselors played football at university. So the thing was, back then, where I grew up in Metro Detroit, it was only like the rich kids that would get to play football. But I just got hooked on the sport, and I was already a little Beatles knucklehead then. So unfortunately, Toughies, when you're a 5-6-year-old kid in Michigan, you don't know the word Everton. It's the name Liverpool that sticks out. And I just got hooked on it and followed it, as best as I could, whether I go to the library and get the papers and look at the tables and all that stuff. And just as I got older, I had a chance to go to Dusseldorf as an exchange student during the '82 World Cup, and just got bit really hard by the football bug for that on the international level too. So yeah, it's just something I've always been into and always loved playing the sport, and just Liverpool was my team. Didn't really. I mean, the only other club that back in those days in the early '70s that you would hear about would be the Cosmos. When they started bringing over like Beckenbauer and Pele and all those guys.
Pele, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's. I mean, it's just I always felt an affinity for the city, and this will be, I think, my 12th trip over coming up. So yeah, it's just, I tell people it's my second home, and the hospitality is great, and always have a great time. So yeah, it's just something that my mom even said, you were just born in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's lovely, lad. That's a lovely comment what you just made, because as you know, Liverpool come under terrible criticism. It's just terrible. It really is, from up and down the country, because as we say here in Liverpool, we look out. We don't look in, we're in.
Yeah.
We look out. We look across the Irish Sea. We're all Celts, you see, and we look over towards America, and that's what.
I think a lot of that has to do with the shipping. It being such a big port town for so long, and all the trade and everything that happened there.
Yeah.
And another reason why I enjoy your videos too, I love the architecture. Just love walking around the city and just spend a lot of time, get a crick in my neck just looking up and just looking at everything that's going on there. A lot of people, I have to tell them, no, the city's rich in history. It's not just about the music and the football. It's got so many other things going.
It's incredible, because Liverpool is it's a big mark. It's a big mark in the world. And as you said, and I'm delighted that you said it's not just football, and it's not just the Beatles. There's lots of other things, like the very first, 1715 wet dock in the entire world, where it controlled water. It controlled water in the dock. First one in the world. And then we had the very first passenger railway system in the world. Passenger railway system. It's an incredible thing. Do you know what, as well, which is quite intriguing? This new film, Oppenheimer, which is out. Mm-hmm. And I've been asking people, if they've seen it. Does one fellow get mentioned? And he was a lecturer of physics, great physicist, unbelievable physicist. Mm-hmm. And his name was Sir James Chadwick. Now, the Manhattan Project, the Manhattan Project, that was the most secretive thing ever in the annals of history. It was such tightly bound with fear.
I'm going to relocate real quick, because I think I'm losing the signal. But
okay, I'll just finish off with this, and I'll just finish off with this. And all of a sudden, they had to send for Sir James Chadwick to go over, because they wouldn't allow anyone in. And Sir James Chadwick went over, and it was he who split the atom for Oppenheimer. And I bet you that would get.
Did not know that.
That won't get mentioned.
So
anyway, okay. Do you want to finish now then? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I just got home, so I just got out of the car. Just trying to get to a better spot for the signal.
No, smashing.
All right.
So you're on the patio now?
Yeah, I am.
Well, look at that. Blimey. Is that your place, yeah? Your view?
Yeah, it's my retreat.
Your retreat. But wait till you come and see me. And
Oh, I can't wait.
wait till you see where I sit to try and get some vitamin D. Wait till you see it and you'll laugh. But, you know, it's just clean. Like, but this is where I sit out, you see. Albeit that I have a sort of a Juliet balcony, which is no good at all, Juliet balconies. And, oh, yes, it's funny enough. She just put a comment on pretty in Florida.
Yeah, I've been here almost 5.5 years now. I absolutely love it.
That's it, isn't it? You know, if you're in a place that you love, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it was a little rough, you know, with the second divorce from the Brazilian, but it was a really good life reset to get down here, and you know, I'm playing music, and you know, not just with the guys back in Detroit, but I'm playing in a band here. We're doing all covers by the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, the Who, the Monkees, all those guys. And then, you know, with the football club here and my colleagues, I got in with a really good group of folks at work. They had a nice little birthday banner set up for me at my office when I got in today. And because they know I'm going to be leaving town, so I won't be here for my birthday. They're just really, really good spot to be in. And I'm still exploring the city too. There's a lot of things here I haven't really been able to, you know, it's a work in progress.
Well, no matter where you go in the world, even in your own country, you know, if you move, you just move. How can I put this? And you've got to set up again.
Yeah.
You've got to make new friends. You've got to become established, unless you want to stay anonymous, that is.
Yeah.
Well, and Valley says, Dennis, are you a singer?
Yeah, I try. It might be up to, you know, up for debate with some folks, but yes, I play guitar and sing.
No, you're good, actually. You're good.
Thank you.
You're good.
Appreciate it.
You are good.
Yeah, we just had a show Friday night that went over really well. Had the dance floor packed all night, so it's good. If I'm a little croaky, that's why.
Yeah, I'm always croaky. I've been so busy today. It's been incredible. And normally I'm just sitting there. You know. I'm a great thinker. Or I don't tell anyone this. I've only ever told one person this. I write poetry, right? And anyway, I was writing a poem this morning. And then after I'd written it, I went back to normality, right? Because you've got to think. And then all of a sudden, I get a call. And my grandson came to visit me. My grandson. And the thing is, it's impossible to explain, because within 1 hour, I had about 40 people in contact with me in 1 hour. 40. And the last person to come to see me and was sitting there, he was in between jobs. You know, I mean, he had to go from one job to another.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Goldsec, because you know Ian, don't you? Right?
Yeah.
From the football. And he sat here, and I made him a cup of tea because he thinks I make the best cup of tea in the world. So I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking at him going, I hope he goes. I hadn't had a shower. I hadn't had a shave. I hadn't done anything. And I've got 40 minutes to get ready. I've got to throw all this on as well. I've got to throw all this on. Oh, I was in a mad. Then I got a phone call. I got a phone call of a friend of mine called Stephen Mitchell, and he wants me to do things actually over. Don't take that the wrong way. He wants me to do things. He just says, you know, I said, yes, sure, no problem, and I'll do that. So there's a lot of things that was within 1 hour.
Man on the go.
No, I'm usually, I'm usually, I don't know, very empty, very quiet and isolated and whatever, you know. But it was just that mad hour or so, all these people and messages and whatever, you know. So how's your day been? Has it been as busy as mine in 1 hour?
Yeah, well, I'm working from home tomorrow. My flight out to Heathrow doesn't leave Tampa until 10:30 at night. So, which will be already 3:30 Wednesday morning your time. But I had so many loose ends to tie up with the office because I'm the only me for my company. So just wanted to make sure ducks are in a row. And my boss needs anything set up, you know, that might need looking after while I'm gone, just to make sure those I's are dotted, T's are crossed, kind of things.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You've got to do everything though, haven't you? You know, you've got to tie a lot of things up before you go away.
Right.
And then by the time you get back again, you know, you've got to undo all the tying up.
Yeah.
Let
and
it go.
the thing, you know, it's just, again, being the only one in my position with the company. This will be the longest trip I've been on since just before I moved here when I was in Liverpool back in early 2018. Usually I just like do a quick weekend trip somewhere, or even last year when we played the festival, I can only get over there for like 5 days. So now that I'm taking a good 10 days off, it's going to be I mean, I'm going to be on the go. Got a lot of stuff planned while I'm there. But
that's what I mean. Can I come in there?
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me interjecting there, because you come over to relax. Am I right?
Yeah.
But you're relaxing is going all over the place and visiting friends and whatever, because you're going to Spalding, you're going to give a performance, then you're coming up to Liverpool.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're meeting the likes of us lads and girls and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great. But that's, then again, is it really relaxation for you, or are you just excited of meeting people?
I'm excited to see old friends, and the Tuesday I'm in Liverpool, I'm going across the river to see a young lady over in Tranmere. And, you know, her and I have been corresponding since the pandemic, and unfortunately she couldn't come to the performances there last year. So her and I have kind of like a date day set up while I'm there to meet.
That's
and,
lovely.
Yeah, her little fella, he's a big red, so I got a couple of Tampa Bay Red goodies to bring over for him. And, you know, and then everybody that's coming out to the pub on Wednesday, and, you know, just to see my mate Steve and spend time. And, you know, Spalding, my mate Chris, he runs a little online radio station called Sound of Spitfire.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's been very supportive of the band as well. He and his other presenters have been great. And he came to visit me here a year and a half ago. So he and his partner, she's originally from Sweden, Zandra, lovely people. And they were kind enough to say, hey, why don't you come on over on holiday and stay with us for a bit? So, you know, turnabout is fair play, and going to do some radio over there, and, you know, the performance and all that good stuff. A big party's been planned. And so, yeah, it's going to be good to see some familiar faces. I got to meet a lot of the presenters that came out to, you know, from Spalding over to Liverpool last year, and to see my friends that, you know, in Liverpool I've known for years. Yeah, that is exciting for me, and I look forward to it.
It's really nice, because Jason just sent me a message, the producer of this show,
Mm-hmm.
and said, Steve knows so many people that I know too. He's one of those people you are destined to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Steve. Great bloke.
Yeah. Yeah. And I met Steve through, it was like a blog or an article on the BBC's website about the Beatles. So then we started talking about music. And, I told him my background and having played with the guys and all that. And he's done work with Pete Wiley. And so, yeah, we all happen to bump into Billy Butler on occasion. So not to name drop, but it's just amazing how it's all.
No. Well,
And,
Billy's been on my show a couple of times, and Leslie, his wife.
oh, yeah, they're lovely. I love Leslie. She is amazing.
Yeah. I've got to ask you this question.
Fire away.
Is there any alligators in that little river behind you?
They have a sign posted kind of warning people to stay away. I have yet to see one. And I've lived here now, it'll be 2 years this month. But there's another lake over on the other side of our complex, and they did spot one there. So they had to get the wildlife people out to capture it and relocate it.
Yeah. I just want to give a message to Lynn Ellis. Got to go now for tonight. Good night, Frank, and everyone. See Friday, Frank. Lovely lady is Lynn. She's a lovely lady. What's this? I got quite a few Detroit garage bands records, like the Woodies or the Woolies.
Oh, yeah. John, you might want to check out the Gories too. They're a really good band.
And he says lots of them are really unsung influences as they were obscure.
Yeah.
The influential to those that know.
Garage. It was a big influence on us in the Incurables, because that's, we'd get a hold of, whether it was in my case, my parents' records, or a couple of the other fellows in the band, they had older siblings, and that's what we listened to. We just got a hold of their, little 45s, and we pop them on, and then it's like, okay, who's got a guitar? Let's try to figure these songs out.
It's, when people, and I'm saying especially Americans, for some reason, if the music, if the bands or whatever, and they say, well, where did your influence come from? Where did your influence come from? And 90% of them say the Beatles. 90% the Beatles. And it's, it's just great to think that they gave so much inspiration for other peoples to follow music. Not their own kind of brand of music, but their own. Anyway, it's just great. It really is great. And Valley says, Dennis, do you do covers and or stroke / whatever it is, or original music?
What? I was just up in Detroit back at the beginning of July, played a show with the Incurables, and with those guys, it's mostly originals. In addition to being influenced by all the 60s bands, we were also heavily influenced, from the punk and new wave of the late 70s, early 80s, like Elvis Costello, Cheap Trick, the Ramones, Echo and the Bunnymen, so they were influences on our stuff when we do originals with those guys. Down here in Tampa, the band I play with here, it's called Dig a Pony, which is a song off the Let It Be album. And those are all strictly nothing but covers, mostly 60s.
I've got to show some pictures, I think. Yes, got to show some pictures. Oh, it's a comedy. It's a comedy thing. Adam Anwar, Melanie Hudson, Kev O'Brien, Percy Savage, Emerson Young, Dustin Moore, and Francine Carlyle.
Hey.
That's the Spanish Caravan. Cool and comedy.
Yeah, Francine, listening. I hope to see you when I'm there.
I can't see where it is. I haven't a clue. Because, hang on, I'll get rid of that. Not,
Oh, there you go.
there we go. Right, Thursday, the 31st of August, show starts at 8 p.m. Doors open 7:30. Free entry, and go in and have a laugh. Just have a
Nice.
laugh with all these comedians, which is nice. And also, I love to pasta. Right, this is what I have to show. Book signing and in conversation with Frank Carlyle. This is on the 17th. This is this Thursday with Marius Manzos. And it's the signing of the social one. Why Jurgen Klopp was a perfect fit for Liverpool. How's that? But I don't know where these pictures are. I really don't what Jason has thrown up. I really, whether they're on here. Oh, yes, here they are. Right. Can anyone tell me where these are? These two pictures. Anyone?
I can't.
I'll just wait for these people to answer me. Where in the centre of Liverpool are these? Where would you find these? So when you come over, how long will it take your flight?
I arrive local time at 12:30 in the afternoon, so it's almost 9 hours to get to London, non-stop.
So you get to London, then you've got to get to Lincolnshire, right?
Yeah, my mate Chris is coming down. He's gonna pick me up at the airport.
Do you think that you'll have a sleep on the plane, or when Chris picks you up, do you think you'll have a sleep?
I'm usually pretty good about sleeping on the plane, especially after that second bottle of Merlot.
See, the thing is, as well, is that when you travel from Heathrow, it's getting out of London. Then it's travelling all the way up to Spalding and Lincolnshire.
Yeah, I looked it up the other day. It looks like it's going to be about a 2.5 hour car ride at least.
It takes a few hours.
Yeah.
And then, you've got that all on top of you. Obviously, the flight, preparing for the flight. That's why I don't like long haul. I've never been to America in my life. Ever. I've only ever been to Europe, which is straight there and straight back.
Yeah.
Never been to the States.
You got to come to Florida.
I know you've invited me over. I've been invited by Joe Whittaker over to Hollywood, believe it or not. I've been invited to New York City. I've been invited to Chicago. It's incredible but the long haul, it just doesn't suit me at all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I might, but one day I might just go over and see you, Dennis. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Definitely be welcome.
You've seen Paul, a.k.a. John Lennon, haven't you? You've seen him.
Yeah, he came over, I think it might be 2 years ago now.
No, it was only this year, wasn't it? Paul McDonough.
No, it was a while ago, maybe last year.
Oh, last year. He must have been putting pictures up there saying that he's met Dennis. And great to see him.
Yeah, we had a wonderful visit. It was a lot of fun.
He's a nice fella, Paul, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Mr. Lennon. But he's in the same profession anyway, so.
Yeah, it looks like he's enjoying himself in Greece, bopping around on the cruise ships.
Yeah. Well, where they are is Cooper's Building, is that red one there.
Okay.
And the other one is the old, get onto this one. And where that gargoyle was, or still is on the wonderful clock tower of municipal buildings in Dale Street in Liverpool. And that clock tower is actually, it's a Venetian tower, it's a Venetian clock tower. that the architect decided to put a little bit of influential Venetian culture onto the clock tower. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I love it. I really do. Anyway, Dennis, I've got to shut the show. It's gone.
All right.
Yeah, it's unless you want to talk for 10 minutes more, let's just see what these people are doing. Right? Let's see. Valley, Dennis, yeah. Oh, you do cover. I'm sorry, there you've mentioned that. Cool history, Dennis, says John Smith. Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Charlie, well, Dennis, are you doing the same as the beat group of the 60s? They used to get 45s from the States and try to work them out.
Yeah, that's what we did when we were kids. Now it's, if it was only that readily available like it is today online, I mean, you sit there with the needle on the record player and, work out a chord, or you're trying to figure out lyrics to the song. It's like, wait, stop, lift, put it back, lift, drop, lift, drop. Surprised me, we scratched the heck out of them.
Yeah, do you know what? Funny enough, it was like in the 50s, like around the latter part of the 50s. And these lads, only young lads, 17, 18, decided to get away on the ships because there was a hell of a lot of sailors from Liverpool, because it was a massive port. So they went on the Cunard ships, and they became known as the Cunard Yanks.
Yep.
Because when they sailed over to America, especially New York, they seen all this neo signs, life, if you know what I mean. Because
that never sleeps.
Yeah, well, the thing is, after the Second World War, we never fully recovered within a length of time. They were still bloody rationing in 1954, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Anyway, they went over and they seen all this vibrancy in the likes of New York. They seen colour. They seen colour in dress, everything. And then they heard sounds coming from record shops, new sounds. And then they started bringing the records over to Liverpool. And that's how Liverpool and the Beatles and the whole of the Merseybeat era started off, by listening to these fantastic American sounds.
A lot of cross-pollination that went on, with the different generations. Those guys, they grew up with the rock and roll era, and they bring those records back. And then, that's when you got kids by the name of John, Paul, and George walking through the streets or whatever and hearing somebody playing a record. And it's like, oh, you're going to NEMS to want that record. And then they turn around and brought the music back over to us and vice versa. And it's still going on to this day. Just the musicians, I think, they have a lot of mutual respect for one another and admiration for one another. Yeah. And I think they repay that by, acknowledging those influences and turning around and saying, okay, well, we're going to give something back. And it's still going on to this day with the music, going back and forth.
It does go back and forth. The Mark Kenny says, great show as always, Frank, including Jason. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
And Valley says, Dennis, does your band have YouTube videos?
Yeah, the Incurables, we have our own video channel on YouTube. So yeah, in addition to concert footage and all of our songs that we put out, you can find them on all the streaming sites as well. But yeah, we do have an Incurables channel on YouTube, so be sure to check it out.
And we're talking about music and shops and whatever. John Smith says, I miss the record shop culture, Frank. Used to travel all over the UK to pick up tracks, chew the fat with the other vinyl diggers and knowledgeable store owners.
Yeah.
That's
And
brilliant.
I
That's a
don't know
great
how it
deal.
is there, John, but here vinyl is making a huge comeback here. And there, the record shops are, for the longest time they were on life support, but now they're healthy.
Yeah. So no one got them anyway. No one got the pictures. No one got anything.
No.
And so Jason has to go to bed. He's up dead early in the morning. No, he goes
after
home.
10.
No. But anyway, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Frank. And next time I see you, we'll see the three-dimensional versions of each other.
Yes. Yes, of course. And I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward
Several
to
pints will be involved.
Oh, yeah. And a nice cup of tea or coffee for you in here as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Terry. Dennis, thank you.
I would sometime though, Frank, if possible, if we can sort it out with Derek. I'd love to come on the show with him too and bend his ear on a couple of things.
Let me.
I really enjoyed his segment. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, all right. Because I think that'll be good. Because John Smith says, "Cheers, Dennis," which is nice. Valley says, "Thanks, Dennis," which is nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's great. It's really good to get the people to get involved, to interact, and So what I'll do, I'll organise it, but it'll have to be on a Monday when they have Derek on a Monday.
Okay,
So,
no problem.
So we'll sort that out in the next few weeks. Is that okay with you? And so, okay, that'll be no problem. That'll be, but you'll have to come on at the same time. Is that okay?
It'll be fun.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you, Dennis, and I'll see you very soon. Okay.
All right, man. Thanks so much for everything. Talk to you soon.
No, thank you. Shiva diavo. Ciao. That's it, people. It's way past Jason's bedtime. Way past. So anyway, it's just for me to say a big thank you. I'm just looking at the time. Yes, it's 10 past. I didn't realise it was 10 past. So I'll be seeing you all tomorrow night. All you Liverpool football fans out there, I'll be seeing you all tomorrow on the live broadcast. And don't forget, you can even like on this show. Press your likes. Get the algorithm out there. But tomorrow, please, if you're coming on, please press the likes. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Costs nothing. And then press the like. I press it every week if you're impressed. And John says, "Cheers, Frank. Enjoyed your chat." Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Really. My neck's bloody killing me because I have to bend up. It really, do you know where I sit? I'm sure of it. I should be sitting here like this. Should be. Pulled over there like. I don't know. I just get all up. I don't want this as in the way. See, that's in the way. I hope that didn't make a sound. Cheers, Frank. Enjoyed your chat, says John Smith. Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Frank. You're the best. The best, says Valley. Think this channel will grow, Frank, says John Smith. Thank you, John. I've been doing it for years and it still hasn't grown. I'm not bothered because I've got my audience like your good self, the likes of Valley, the likes of everybody who's been on it, Mark Kinnish, Lynette, they're all on it. They're all smashing people. And think this year, yes, as see it again, John, says Valley. Valley S Ditto, says John. Yes. And is that hand pink waving face blue smile? I haven't a clue what that is, unfortunately. Right, so I'm finishing now, ladies and gents, and I'll see you all tomorrow night, as I said. I'll see you all next week for This Is the History Show. And I think I'll have, I've got to mention, our dear friend, Anthony Brown, the great international artist, good friend of mine and whatever. He's in hospital and he's only having tests, and that's why he couldn't come on tonight. So he's in there. Get well soon, and see you next week. See you next week. I'm sorry that I completely went out of my mind. Just want to thank Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle Show. Honestly, they're all great people. As I said, fully time lads, served, fully insured. Great work. You want some work done, just get these lads in. Gap Painting Services. And also Jason. Without Jason, there'd be no bloody show, to be honest. I'm as useless as a chocolate fireguard when it comes to all this technical jargon. And especially to you out there, because without you out there tuning in every week, great comments, there'd be no Frank Carlyle Show. So thank you so much for joining me, guests, and everybody else. And also to Derek Shelmerdine and Dennis Pepperack. Thank you so much. So see you all tomorrow night, and see you all prossimo settimane, which means next week in Italian. Thank you. For the show, that is, the history show. Thank you so much. I hate doing this, I always get this wrong. Always do.